moment in our history, and particularly for horse racing, that we have private sector folks stepping forward to take over the operations of these tracks. Jeff Garral, who operates, lives in Tioga up in New York, is well known and extremely well respected for what he has done with the racetrack in New York State, and has already released plans for the redesign of the Meadowlands. He believes he can take that operation to be completely self-sustaining, if not profitable. And I think that is good news for our taxpayers. It's good news for the industry. The other, the RFP for Monmouth Park has not yet been released, but will be released very shortly. It was expected it would go out today. And there are 4 interested parties, one of which you described is from abroad, Betfair. And then there are a multitude of others that are going to come in and bid. I think at this point in our economic situation here in New Jersey, with the deficit that we're running, with the difficulty we're having in generating revenues, it does make sense to look for an operator that can return horse racing to be completely self-sustaining. The governor signed the off-track wagering bills just a week ago, which will generate significant revenue for both Meadowlands and Monmouth Park and Freehold Raceway, for both purses and operations, and will be a large part of getting those tracks to be self-sustaining eventually, because the revenue does go back to the industry in the form of purses. So overall, I think this is a positive step. It's obviously much better than closing the tracks, which we had a moment in time where the Meadowlands was facing closure, and I'm very hopeful. I think you're going to see the horse racing industry come back full force and be returned to its previous glory.
Now, you mentioned the Meadowlands and Monmouth Park with being privatized. When will this take effect? For example, in the Meadowlands, when will that new owner come in and take over the Meadowlands?
Jeff Garral, the agreement that was reached back at the end of December is that Jeff Garral would take January, February, and March to do his due diligence, and by April 1st would agree to take over the cost of operating the track in its entirety, including any operating deficits. And that for that interim period, for that 3-month interim period, that the state would front $1 million to open up the Meadowlands so they could begin their race season, and that money would be repaid to the state of New Jersey by the standardbred owners themselves. So the state won't be out any money. But as of April 1st, we will know if Jeff Garral is going to absolutely take over ownership of the Meadowlands. It seems very likely he's going to do so. As I said, he's presented architectural drawings that are very impressive for a new structure for the grandstand and for the track. And the racing that's been happening up there over the last couple of months has been very high quality racing, so we're hopeful. In terms of Monmouth Park, RFP should come out hopefully early next week. A quick turnaround, and then it will be awarded to the person that has the best interests of Monmouth Park in mind, and opening the park for opening day. I mean, we fully anticipate that May of this year we will open on time with racing as we've always had it in Oceanport.
So the Monmouth Park, the bids will come in, but they will take over when, if someone is awarded the Monmouth Park?
Some of that will be fleshed out in the bid. We expect that different folks may have different visions. It allows for both a lease and or a purchase of Monmouth Park. So you could have someone come in and lease the facility, and they will take over operations for the coming season, or they could come in and purchase the park and take over the operations. But it would be a quick turnaround. We may have to have the state structure a situation similar to what we did with the Meadowlands, whereby they may have to front money for a couple of months and be repaid that money once the new owner comes in. Those details haven't been worked out yet because the RFP hasn't gone out. But when it does, it'll all be solidified.
Now, Richard McGowan, who's an economics professor at Boston College.
My alma mater, by the way.
Okay, so he said the only thing that will revive horse racing is if you banned all other kinds of gambling, and that's not going to happen. And in addition, gamblers wagered $2.2 billion on horse races last year in New York, while the slots at the racinos took in $12 billion. What is your opinion of these statements?
You always gotta like a good cynic. I think that the horse racing industry has not evolved as other industries have. And what I mean by that is they offer one game of chance at the track and not a lot of diversity. That is changing already. And we saw that at Monmouth Park last year, where we had the $1 million a day, 50-day meet, and in between we had concerts and a clam fest and a chili cook-off, and used the park for other forms of entertainment as well as horse racing. With the advent of exchange wagering, which we just signed into law, and the distribution of the product through various off-track wagering facilities, I do think you're going to see growing interest in horse racing. Think about it. Right now, if you want to go wager a bet on a horse, you can do it in really a handful of places. You can go to a racetrack, you can go to one of 3 off-track wagering facilities, or you can go to a casino. So it's not readily accessible to large portions of our population. In comparison to in Pennsylvania, where you have 14 different casinos that are in people's backyards, a 5 or 10 minute drive away. And I think that is changing. You're going to see a wholesale change in the distribution of the product, which I mean the ability to view horse racing and bet on it, to become much more convenient for people. And the tracks themselves will be used for all sorts of entertainment in addition to horse racing. And I think that will be an additional reason why you see horse racing come back and people take a greater interest in it.
You're president of a marketing firm.
Yes.
If the New Jersey horse racing industry was your client, how would you market them to increase their profit and visibility in New Jersey?
It's really interesting you said that. One of the biggest faults, I think, with the industry as a whole is that there is no national coordination. So in the way that the NFL coordinates their games, so you know you have Monday Night Football, there's a big game somewhere in the country. And on Sundays you have 2 or 3 big games. The horse racing industry doesn't do that. They run meets simultaneously, sometimes overlapping each other. There is no coordinated marketing effort nationally. So there is a lot of overlap. And if I were designing their market plan, one of the things this industry must do is better coordinate their racing dates so that they don't cannibalize each other, and so that you can have special events. Maybe Thursday night becomes the night where all 2-year-olds run, and it becomes that becomes known nationally. That sort of thing isn't being done. It's being done individually, track by track, but in no ways is it coordinated across the country.
Are there any bills pending now that affect the horse industry aside from what we discussed?
Most of those bills have actually already received votes. In other words, setting race dates. The exchange wagering bill was signed into law, and the off-track wagering bill was signed into law. There is a bill that's being drafted about instant racing, which is, I expect we'll see some action once we get a legal opinion back from the Attorney General's office. But we are always looking for new and novel ways to both market and distribute horse racing as a entertainment product, that's what it is. And so I'm very excited because I think New Jersey has turned a corner here, and you're going to see this $4 billion industry that provides tons of jobs and hundreds of thousands of acres of open space for our state continue to thrive here.
Well, thank you, Senator Beck.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.